Hey, hey, hey! Welcome to another episode of Perfection Unfolding with me, Cara G. Welcome back. This is part 2 of my conversation with the man, the myth, the legend, the artist, the creative, the rapper, the musician, the model, Nyck Khayo, my newfound friend. If you didn't catch part 1 last week, go back, listen to that, because we're going to dive right into mid-conversation where we left off last week. With that being said, I hope you enjoy.
Yeah.
Well, before we're gonna talk more about Nyck the alter ego in a little bit, but I wanted to circle back to like the what did you call them? The physicality, what did you call those?
Oh, the 4 things I listed.
Which there's like compatibility. Yeah. Well, we had talked about this at the bar, and I had
needs or something like that.
yeah, what you need in a relationship, right? Like the requirements to even get to like the hard stuff, right? Well, I think I had said this to you at the bar that night, but it was like I read this somewhere where this woman, Glow Atonmo, she's this like beautiful Black woman who's like an entrepreneur, marketing genius. She used to be a travel blogger, like one of the first to do it, like had her own blog in 6th grade. Anyway, she's wonderful and she's in this beautiful relationship. So and she's a woman of God.
Important.
Yeah. And like I'm not like I don't consider myself a Christian, but I like listening to what people believe in because I trust people who have belief.
Yeah.
More than I trust people who don't.
Yeah.
Because no matter how you got to God or how you got to spirit or universe or whatever you call it, like you got there.
Yeah.
And like you get it. You understand that this is not just about like us. It's about all of it all at once, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
And so there's just like when I see that awareness in other people, I'm like, okay, I trust you over this other person because like you had to go through some shit to get where you were, and I respect it.
Journey and experience.
Yeah,
to know the Lord.
Yeah. So anyway, but she said this thing because she basically documented her whole dating experience. Like she's 33 now or 30. No, she's 35 now. But when she was 33, or 32, she set off to intentionally date, right? And she's traveling all over the world. So like one day she's in Bali, the next day she's in Bosnia, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so she documented her whole online dating experience. And it was really fascinating because here she's like, guys, to be a Black woman in the world traveling, like you're already an oddball. Like you're in all these places, like you stick out like a sore thumb. She literally goes by Glow. So she's glowing. Okay. She's gorgeous, she's thick, you know, like she's got a big personality. So like, and she's happy. She just like has this like light about her. And so she's documenting this whole thing. And in this live or in this video that I was watching, she said, before I did this experiment and now found her now husband, right? This beautiful, bald, tall Bosnian man. She was like, I dated with the 3 A's. It was attraction, availability, alignment. She said, and in that order. I want to be attracted to you. Yeah. I want to know if you're available, and then do we align? Yeah. And she said, but I realized that didn't get me what I wanted. What I needed to do was date for alignment, availability, and then attraction. Yeah. Because if we're being honest with ourselves, alignment, if we don't have that, why are we even talking? Yeah. I mean, obviously there's going to be physical attraction when you're like, I don't know, swiping on somebody or you see one in public, but the first conversation, not the first conversation, but like once you go on like a date or 2 or maybe 3 dates, like you know if you're aligned. Yeah. You know, and so it's kind of like,
it's a good point.
You know, and then it's like, okay, hard stop. We're good. Like there's no harm, no foul. Like we don't have to go further because what we would do normally is we would just keep going because we're attracted and they're available. So we have the time. Right. And then that's when we put off 1 month, 2 month, 3 month. Now we're in love. Yes. And we're not aligned. And then we spend years trying to undo or trying to figure out how to become aligned. Right. And it just doesn't work like that.
Yeah. No, it really is. And it's kind of backwards the way that we do it. Yeah. And it's really because like, you know, I mean, you go online, it's the instant gratification. This is kind of like my theory.
Sure.
Of like
speak your truth.
Why I think it's, you know, men focus so much and, you know, we talk about the male gaze and everyone knows about it, but it's like we're inundated. Inundated. With so much like mess online. I mean, the amount of pornography that's online now, like all the instant gratification that you get online and seeing pictures, like there is really this deep like enigma that's really happening amongst men and just the internet of like, you know, some men are just like lonely, you know what I mean? Like they're just like okay in their small little box, so they can just go on Tinder and do OnlyFans or something like that to get a quick hit without actually wanting to build a relationship with someone and get to alignment and get to core values and get to those things that are needed. So I think we definitely have to like be cautious of that and find a way to limit how we interact online, especially men, like TikToks and Instagrams, it's everywhere.
Which,
So
if you've seen those videos of like men versus like women algorithms, I've never seen a pornographic reel on my Instagram ever.
Yeah.
And then some of these men, it's literally like even if they don't follow any of these pages, it's just like tits, ass, fake boobs, tits, ass. I mean, the content exists.
Yeah.
I'm just not. It doesn't do it for me, I guess.
The algorithm like,
they said, no, she's not gay.
Yeah, she's not gonna, like that photo.
It's interesting.
But no, it really is like a common. It's a problem, for sure.
Yeah.
And I just think the internet has like kind of taken things out of hand.
Yeah.
In that way, and attraction is very, very important. But I think that we've put too much.
Yeah.
And I know I have at times, like so much emphasis on it that we don't even care if there's red flags or there's no alignment. Like, she's cool though, she's really good looking though, bro. Like, I used to think like that, but it's just understanding like it's just self-respect. Like you got to be strong as an individual, and I don't know, maybe it could explain that there's so many relationships. I know people that they look good together, but I know like they're having issues in their relationships, and it's not like that for everyone. But I know that I was in that situation, so I know if I was most likely in it, that there's other people who I'm sure are going through the same thing, and there's people on the other spectrum where you're just lonely and just like super depressed, and
they don't love themselves.
They don't love themselves, and they don't know what it even looks like to go out and meet a woman. Like they don't even know how how to move.
Or they sabotage every good thing that ever came to them.
Exactly.
Also that.
Sabotage. There's a
lot of sabotage.
There's a lot of sabotage. Especially like when you have this belief. Like, and something good can be happening, you'll find a way for your belief to come true through your actions because you really believe it. So yeah, honestly, like I love what was the doctor's name you had mentioned? What was her page?
Oh, you talking about Glow?
Glow.
Yeah, not a doctor, but
Glow.
just a really smart lady.
Okay, I felt doctor vibes, so that's why I like doctor.
She could be a doctor of love for sure.
Doctor of love, and she could be alignment. Dude. And then what was the other one?
It was alignment, availability, and attraction. Availability is massive.
Yeah, that's another big one.
Yeah.
If you're not being able to be vulnerable like we talked about, then it's like, and
you got to know your market availability.
Yeah.
If you're post breakup, you got no business being on that market.
Like, I had back there. It was like, slow down a little. Give yourself some time.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, fine.
Fine. I'll integrate all the lessons.
I'll listen to you.
Fine.
Because I'm so eager to,
sure, it's exciting.
Get back out there and, and just
shooters gotta shoot.
Yeah, have fun. Shoot my shot. So, but yeah, I understand. Like you have to give yourself some time.
Yeah.
To make sure that you've learned and you're not gonna make the same mistake again.
Yeah, it's like for me, it's so funny. Like I don't make the same mistake twice. I'll make the same mistake with a slight difference. Yeah, like it'll be like instead of brunette, it'll be blonde. You know what I mean? But like it's like different book, same plot.
Yeah. Damn. Yeah. Our mind like plays that trick. Oh, well, this might be different.
Yeah.
It's usually just a habit being performed again.
Well, it's like, are you different?
Yeah.
Yes or no? And if you're different, I feel like the likelihood of the situation being different.
Yeah.
It's probably more
personally yourself different.
Yeah. Because again, if you go back to like you attract what you are. Yeah. Well, for me, like this is also really interesting. They say like when you have daddy issues, like you date partners who are like your dad, and when you have mommy issues, you date partners who are like your mom, and until you can like fix it, right? We keep dating these people who are like our parents so we can fix that core wound, right? If we can fix them, then we can fix our past. Like it's like this weird psychology that doesn't make any sense. But what I realized about my ex is that because I had done all my dad work before I'd met this person. Right? So like and you had asked me about like what that looked like with my dad.
Yeah.
I think that's what we're getting into right as the podcast
I think so.
ended.
Yeah, I really want to hear that.
Yeah.
Because I want to talk about too, like how I am healing with my mother, you know,
Mm.
and
And it's
understanding
all
my wounds and how it's
yeah.
all connected. So I'm curious to know.
Sure. So with my dad, just like a baseline, like the abridged, like, uh version
Mhm,
is grew up like I think his dad was an alcoholic or he was definitely abusive physically, and my dad was the oldest, so my dad got like the brunt of
mm,
the abuse. Goes from a traumatic childhood with physical abuse, mental abuse, emotional abuse into the military where he felt right at home,
mm,
right? Because that's all the military is physical, mental. If physical
mm,
abuse, mental abuse, emotional abuse, they literally
mm.
their whole goal is to knock you down to build you back up. My dad was like, "Y'all having a hard time?" He's like,
Yeah,
"This is like easy,
yeah, I grew up with this.
Yeah. He was like, "You guys are pussies." Like that's
Yeah.
I'm using that for the story. But and so then he goes from there to I think he gets married and divorced at like 23, like,
Mm,
did some things he's not proud of in that relationship. That broke his heart, went on live he was a bouncer, he did all these odd jobs, got kicked out of the Navy for,
mm,
being too aggressive and
mm.
was told he could never join the military again.
Dang,
Like, great, this
I didn't know that
motherfucker's
could even
insane.
happen.
Right. Right. That's crazy.
That's
Just like
badass.
all of his siblings they're all just so like they have the capability to be like really scary people, like with
Oh, your
any anger.
siblings?
No, my dad and his siblings,
Oh,
because he has three siblings who are younger than him. They have this like rage inside of them, like this
mm,
ball that could just get hairline trigger. You
mm,
say the wrong thing, like they're exploding.
mm,
They're calling you a piece of shit. They're just really bad. So anyway, but then he goes from that into like, and then he finds my mom. My mom's like, they fall in love, they have us, whatever. So like my dad basically just, long story short, has no emotional regulation skills,
mm,
right? Because the only time he was heard when he was a kid was when he was screaming. And the only time he was communicated with when he was in trouble was through screaming, right? So it's
mm,
like the only, like screaming, punching, fighting, like that was just the only way you got attention and the only way people heard what you were, who respected you. You only got respect when you were being this scary person. Because when people fear you, they leave you alone,
yeah,
right?
that's what
Like,
he learned.
yes. And so and also and he wears that like a badge of honor, this volatility. Well, and he got into bar fights, and I think he put a guy in a coma once. He almost went to jail. Like it was
Mm.
bad. Like just he was just looking for a fight. Just angry dude.
Tell him not to mess with your dad.
Yeah. Well, he's got two fake hips now, so he can't move that fast. But if he gets you, you're in trouble.
I'm in trouble.
um, and so they just basically, my dad has no emotional regulation skills. He's not emotionally immature because when he's an adult, he's an adult. Like, but as soon as he gets triggered, he turns into a 7-year-old little boy who's
Mm,
trying to fight you. There's no logic. There's no rhyme. There's no reason. He just has a temper. He has a temper tantrum, but it looks like way scarier because he's this like 250-pound man who's like 6'2", and he's just like stomping his feet, and then he starts saying ugly things, and then and sometimes he'll like slam doors. And when we were kids, he would like come up to my dad's only goal as being a parent was not to hit us, and he didn't hit us. But what he did do was almost scarier. He would like grab us by the ears and he'd put his forehead on our forehead and he would like bite his tongue and his whole face would turn blood red and he would just be like, "Don't you ever," and then he would just say just nasty things to us.
mm,
So like it was like definitely verbal emotional abuse.
mm,
But the good thing is that my dad was overseas for like many, many years. So like my dad was both the dad who showed up to every event and he was our biggest supporter, and like I was his little princess and would take us and get us whatever we wanted. And he was also the guy who would scream at you for having a sock on the floor.
mm,
You know what I mean?
mhm.
And never differentiated that it wasn't because we did something wrong, it was because we were wrong. You know what I mean? So as a kid, you internalize like, "Oh, I'm just a fuck up,"
Yeah,
you know? So like
yeah.
that's like my dad, right? And as you get older, you get a little more courageous and you're like, "Don't talk to me like that," you know?
Mhm,
And then he interprets that as disrespect. And then you're just in this toxic wheel where
mhm,
like there's never any repair. He blows up, we all pretend like everything's fine. We walk on eggshells to make sure we manipulate his behavior to make sure he's having a good time. He doesn't feel loved or appreciated for who he is because we don't, like because we've never experienced like the red flags outweigh the green flags,
mm,
at least for the kids.
right,
My parents are still together,
mm,
which brings a whole other complicated piece
yeah,
to this because now it's like, my mom is technically complicit in this, by staying with my dad. It's just like a whole thing, right?
yeah,
That's the abridged version, I promise. But
yeah.
But what
Yeah,
had happened was when I was around 23 years old, I would say I was done. I was over it. And I just decided it was like baby steps. I kind of started the work at around 23 because I was living with my parents in their house because my dad, he's been working in DC for like the last 5 years. So my parents have been separate. They've been geographic bachelors their entire relationship.
Which military, Navy.
And then and he was contracting and he was overseas and then he was government. And so it's actually funny because he's retiring officially. So he's coming home to live my parents together full time for the first time in like a long time. Wow. So they're both recently, right? They're both very nervous about it.
Really?
Yeah.
How long has it been since?
Well, my dad's literally driving back in 2 days from DC with my mom to start their life in retirement together. Yeah, it's really intense.
They're moving here?
No. They have a house in Lufkin, which is East Texas. Okay. But my mom's lived in Texas for like 10 years, but my dad's been other places. Got it. Wow. So anyway, so yeah, fascinating. So when I was 23, I was living in their house and my dad was in DC area. And because I was a journalist in town and I didn't make any money, so I was like, I'll just pay you like rent. And it was like $400 a month, which was very generous for Lufkin. And something had happened where he came home for a week or a weekend and decided he was going to yell at me about a trash can that was full that was in my bathroom that he said that he asked me to take out. And then I didn't do it. It's like very childish. Like he's still trying to, I'm an adult. I'm 23 years old, right? My room's clean. Like I'm not a slob, and he decides that that's the time. That's the thing he wants to scream at me about and talk to me crazy about. And so because at this point I didn't have the confidence to like talk to his face because I didn't have the tools to be able to hold my ground and he would have triggered me and I would have reacted. So I texted him. I sent my dad a text. I said, I was very diplomatic about it. I'm a very diplomatic person. I always show up in kindness. At least I try to. And that's why I texted him so that I would show up in kindness. And I was like, I really appreciate that you're letting me stay in your house. I'm very grateful. I said, but if you ever talk to me like that again, I will never speak to you. I said, and I will sever our relationship. That was my non-negotiable that I decided with my dad. No one's going to talk to me crazy like that. Yeah. And I kind of came to this conclusion of like, nobody in my life talks to me like that. No man, no friend, no woman, but somehow you get a hall pass? That's interesting. I don't think so. And so I texted him that, and then, he said, thank you for your candid candor. That was all he said. Candid candor. Yeah, like for just being honest, I guess. Yeah. And that was it. He didn't say sorry. We didn't talk about it again. There was no repair. And I just minded my business. And then he left and I cared about my life. And then like another incident happened probably like 2 years later. I think I was 25 and I think I was 25 and we were about to go on a trip, me, my mom and my dad, to go meet my half brother who we had known about for like 7 years, but I was the last one to meet him because I was like, that's not my brother. I was a little bit like, fine. Yeah. And so it was like the night before we were going to leave. And my dad, we were watching a presidential debate. Oh. As you can imagine, my dad is a 250-pound, 6'2" white male in America. Yeah. He's been voting for the Reds his entire adult life, right?
He's been what?
He's been voting Republican for like his entire adult life. Like he's a boomer. Like it's right. Like makes sense. He's the statistic. Love that. Right. And we were watching a debate with the orange man and the other old man, and I just made a comment that they both sound crazy. I was like, at least the old man's saying real words, Yeah. And that it sent my dad over the edge. It sent my dad over the edge, and he got so triggered because he had voted for the orange man at least once, And I'm saying that because I just don't even want to give power to, the orange man.
Totally good.
So, words are important.
Words are so important.
They're so important. And so anyway, that is one of the kinds of things that would trigger my dad. Something as simple as me making a joke about a politician who has nothing to do with our personal life. You know what I mean? Like at this point. And he got triggered and he started saying all this ugly stuff. I don't remember what he said. And I said, Dad, why are you yelling? Very calmly. And this was really important in my journeys because it was the first time he was triggered and it didn't affect me at all. Because I had been implementing nothing anybody does has anything to do with me.
Yeah. What usually happened when he would get triggered? And you would get triggered. What?
He would just start saying ugly things. Like, I can't even think of an example.
Well, how would you get triggered?
Oh, in the past, I would shut down instantly. Instantly shut down. And when I was a kid, like, as soon as he would get like that, I would just total shut down. Because a lot of times the things he would say would be like poking at you, like just mean, like,
yeah,
you know, like you don't do things right, or I'll just do it myself. Like, you guys are worthless. I'd rather be in Baghdad than here. At least the bombs are comforting me. You know, like just weird stuff like that, which just makes you think like, oh, like I'm a piece of shit, and yeah, everything I do is wrong, and so might as well not try. You know, so like I would just shut down, and this was the first time because I had been implementing this mantra of like nothing anybody does has anything to do with you. And I was pointing it at my dad, and I'd been practicing that, even in little things, right? And this is the first explosion that he's had with me integrating that into my body and in my mind. And I just looked at him, I just said, Dad, why are you yelling at me? He's like, I'm not yelling. You're the one who's being blah, 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 blah. And I just said, okay. I said, and because I told him 2 years before that if he ever talked to me like that again, you're not going to hear from me. And so I quietly, I stood up. I went to the room and I started packing my bag. That was it.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
That's commendable.
Yeah. And I was so proud of myself. Yeah. I'm still proud. When I think back, I'm like,
I deserve it.
Right. I'm like, good for you, girl. Like, because I didn't let his behavior change who I'm trying to be. And I don't care what you have to say. I don't care who you're trying to be. I'm going to be showing up in kindness and love, and I'm going to hold my boundary. I told you what was going to happen. Now this is me following through because I love myself more than I'm trying to coddle your feelings.
Absolutely.
And so I did. I went into the room and I was crying a little bit, like, because it was really like when he's like that, it's not good. Like, it's not fun. Like, there's no love at all. Like, it just totally goes away because he's in defense mode. He's in protect himself mode because me making a comment about a politician is attacking his character. That's the core wound is like, you're calling me stupid. You think I'm an idiot. You're attacking my character because I voted for this man. I'm like, I was just making a comment. Yeah. But that's where you go when you're triggered. You think that you're being attacked, you know?
So you feel like you have to defend yourself.
Yes, exactly. And, which is what happens in a household when you literally have to always defend yourself from the person who's raising you, you know? So anyway, so I packed up my bag and my mom came in the room. She was like, can I come with you? I was like, hell yeah, girl. And what happened next changed everything. For the first time in my dad's life, because it was maybe 10 minutes went by. And we could still hear him like stomping around and huffing under his breath. Like that's his only way of like bringing himself down, is if he just does it under his breath. And he walked into the doorway and he said the words, he said, I don't know why I did that. He was like, and I'm sorry.
Like
my mom and I went, are you hearing this guy? Like, he was like, I don't know what just came over me, but I realized in the moment when you I don't know if he articulated it exactly like this, but essentially said something like, when you didn't react to me, I could I noticed how crazy I sounded.
Wow.
Right. And because in every other instance, when he's gotten like that, when we've snapped back at him, now we're being disrespectful. So his actions are justified. Isn't that interesting?
That is really interesting.
So
it's almost he wanted a reaction.
What? So he could justify his behavior? Yeah.
Because she's doing it too.
Because he'd never have to look at himself. As long as somebody else was to blame.
Doing the same thing.
It was justified.
So it was like almost ignoring dealing with him. He's like, oh no, you're just as bad as me. You're saying that.
And that was the first time that's the first time he hasn't gotten a reaction out of somebody so that he could, I literally mirrored back to him. Well, I didn't mirror back to him his behavior, but I was a contrasting board of like, and he's like, what? He's like, what the hell was I doing? Like, and we sat there for like an hour, and I talked to him about his childhood trauma and why he does that and where it came from. I said, Dad, I thought about all of this. I said, your problems are my problems. I have the same problems as you. The only difference is I don't want to be like that. I was like, I want to be a person that people like to be around. I think you want that too. I was like, and when you're like that, when you get triggered and you talk to people crazy, they don't want to be around you. And I just had, my mom told me afterwards, we had this long conversation, and my dad walked away from it just like, yeah, I'm really hearing you, and I really want to get better. And my mom said, Cara, I have never witnessed something so divinely. She was like, I don't know what you just did. Like, you like cast a spell or something. She was like, and I said, Mom, I don't know what just came out of my mouth. But somebody was like this, just like, and this is what you say next. And this, because I'm like, and it was like my dad just, it was like the beginning of the beginning for my dad. Wow. And he's not a perfect person, but like, since that happened, it's been like 5-ish years. It's like he's slowly like starting to really observe himself. It's like, and he's analyzing his behavior, and he's like, okay, I don't like that, and he's trying to figure it out. It's like very slow, it's very steady, but it's like, I'm so glad I could give him that gift.
That's beautiful.
And I give myself the gift.
Yeah.
And to wrap it, that was like phase 1 and phase 2. Phase 3 was he snapped at me and talked crazy, like probably 2 years after that. I was like 23, 25, and probably about 27. He snapped at me at a Thanksgiving, in front of all of our family members, and everyone felt really uncomfortable. And I said, okay, I'm gonna go. Like, just instantly, it's like, I'm not, okay, that was what you did, and now I'm gonna leave, you know? And I didn't talk to him for a year. And he didn't talk to me for a year either. And and in that year, the work I did was I grieved the dad I always wanted. Yeah.
How was that grieving for you?
It was a lot of crying. Yeah. It was a lot of crying, and I had a lot of anger. I had a lot of anger, surprisingly, towards my mom. I had a lot of anger towards my mom, because my mom, and she knows this, love you, girl. Shout out Sue. My mom is still with my dad. And so with that comes the choice to keep choosing him. And with that comes a lot of wanting me to see my dad the way she does, and to just accept, and just to push through the way that she does. And I said, Mama, I hate to say it, but you stood up between God and your family, and you chose my dad. I didn't. Yeah. You were already a fully formed person when you chose him. I wasn't. I said, and you have all this trauma from dad as an adult. Imagine what that trauma's done to me, and it's formed my personality. I was like, so, and I was upset with her for trying to tell me you just need to hold more space. You just need to. I was like, no, I've held all the space, my guy. Like, what about him? You know, it was a lot of resentment, a lot of anger. And I just finally came to the conclusion, like, I just needed to grieve the dad I wanted him to be. You know, I'm tired of trying to change him. Which is what we do in a relationship. I don't need him to change. I said, I grieved the dad I always wanted, and I've accepted that he will never exist. And now I can appreciate the dad I have. Yeah. You know, now I can appreciate my dad's good bits. And when his bad bits are around, I can just be like, it doesn't really resonate. I think I'm going to go do something else. Yeah. You know?
Have you found, because I remember you telling me this too, like you don't need to forgive him because there's nothing to forgive.
Yeah.
I think you remember you saying
something
that,
similar.
So,
yeah.
Like,
yeah.
So, and I don't know if I got that from a podcast, so
maybe
quoting words,
maybe.
But no, I mean, okay. So let's say I think I did get it from a podcast.
Yeah.
So how is that for you? How has it been for you? Have you felt that you've forgiven your father, or do you feel that you have found a way to love more, like to just love him despite it all, like in that healing journey? Is that what you've done by it? By like,
sure.
Talk more about that. I'm curious.
So, you know, it's interesting when it all comes back to self, right? So when I was in my, I don't like these things about my dad, kind of energy, which still comes up. Those are all things that I have. Those are all parts of my personality that I don't like. The more I don't like it in him, and I have those, and like before I did that year of grieving, of allowing myself to feel I never allowed myself to feel angry because my parents had been together. I never allowed myself to feel angry because I felt like, well, he did all these good things. No. I need to be able to have every feeling I've ever needed to feel when it comes to my dad. And a lot of that comes down to No, I don't like the way you talk to me. No, I did feel like shit when I was a kid. No, like this and this and this, and it's your fault. And even if you were doing your best, wasn't good enough.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, you just
like
be real with it.
I needed to allow myself to, as a people pleaser, which was created from my dad. Like I people pleased my dad before I people pleased anybody else. You know, God forbid I have a full personality. God forbid I'm loud. God forbid I take up space, you know, because that's going to trigger him and now I'm annoying. You know what I mean? I have an I'm stupid wound because of him. I have a I'm too much wound because of him. And so like those are all the things where I was like, no, fuck this. Fuck that. Like I deserved a dad who was better. I deserved a dad who was this. I deserved a dad. You know, but it's like I wouldn't be who I am without those experiences. And before I did that grieving, I understood where his trauma came from, but it didn't. But like I didn't. And I, it's like I made excuses for him, right? I made excuses because he was trauma. But now it's like, no, it explains your behavior. It doesn't excuse it, right? Yeah. And so I came out of this experience and I was like, because I grieved my dad, I not only can appreciate his good bits and his pure of heart and the things that he gets right, but I can appreciate those things in me. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I can appreciate all of the skills and the gifts that I got from my dad. Wow. Because I am doing this podcast because I'm like my dad. I am. Yeah. And also, as I've gotten older, he continues to surprise me. Yeah. I called him the other day. My dad literally lives alone. I called him the other day asking him, you know, how his Father's Day was. And he's like, oh, I was like, what are you doing? He was like, oh, I'm watching Snow White. Nice. His dad was watching Snow White. I'm like, oh, you are? He was like, yeah. He's like, I heard it was out. And so I figured it's on Disney Plus. Might as well watch it before my subscription expires. That's so funny. So like my dad isn't just this military guy. My dad is this guy who's always wanted to be a photographer. My dad is this guy who loves Disney musicals. My dad is this guy who is so secure in his masculinity. Like, yeah, I'll dress up in drag for my best man's bachelor party. Mm-hmm. My dad dressed up like a hooker for his best. My dad is not gay. Like he's just so. He's like, I'm me. If you don't like it, fuck you. You know, which is something I'm attracted to in my ex. My ex very much so had that energy of like, I don't fuck with everybody, which again makes me feel special. You know, so. My dad has all these bits and like I get a lot of my organization from him, a lot of my leadership quality from him, a lot of like the things that make him the best at what he does. Like my dad is the best at what he does in the country. Like he's been working at the Pentagon for years, you know, like basically consulting people on how to in sustainment, like for war and shit. Like, and it's like he's the best at that, but like he's still getting his training wheels for this whole parenting thing. And it's like we're grown and he's still trying to figure it out, you know? And you know what? Because I'm an adult now and because I like have done that work, I can appreciate that my dad's never done this shit before. Yeah. You are, yeah. He's never done this shit before. And I'm sitting here talking about you need to be an Olympic gold medalist in fatherhood, you know? And, you know, both can be true. Like, yes, I wish you had more tools. I wish you would have thought about kids before you had them. I wish you had something more, you know, in terms of like tools to use and emotional regulation. But you were still the dad playing with us outside when all the men were drinking beer. Mm-hmm. And that's something I'm going to look for in my partner. And I was still your little princess. And if you had your way, you would have been in every fucking dance recital. You would have been my number one fan if you didn't have to be overseas working, you know? And you know yourself so well that you made sure you were gone more than you were home so that we could develop to where we are now. Yeah. Because you and I both know if you were around more, you would have done more damage. Yeah. And you know what? And that's a beautiful awareness, even if it wasn't on purpose. Yeah. No, that's good realization, reflection. Yeah. And so now we're friends. That's good. And I can appreciate him. And when he's being ugly, I'm like, Dad. I think because I'm the one who called him out on his bullshit, I'm the person who wields the power in the family when it comes to dealing with my dad. And he'll admit it too. Like he's like, I'm like, I can talk to my dad like this because I'm no longer accusing him of anything. I'm like, Dad, you know that's not helpful. Mm-hmm. You know we don't like it when you do that, right? He's like, yeah, I'm just out here, you know, and he's just like, I'm trying my best. I'm like, yeah. Mm-hmm. And you know that if you act this way, Reagan's not going to want to hang out with you or Kyle. Like, and he's like, I know. I'm like, okay, I'm just letting you know. Mm-hmm. You know, and I can kind of check him like that because it's with love. It's not with resentment anymore. So that was my abridged version, even though it's long. That's great. Well, thanks for sharing that. Yeah, for sure. Awesome. Yeah. Well, I want to know about yours.
So you want to know about mine?
Yeah.
Oh man,
we're getting into the weeds.
Yeah,
this is gonna be longer than an hour. I'm sorry.
It's a little longer.
Yeah, we'll have to split it up into 2 parts.
I know. Yeah, I mean, yeah, my story started with my mother. I grew up with. I'll give you a short version too.
Okay.
But long story short is I didn't grow up with a father in my
Yeah.
life. Never met my father or anything like that. So my mom was typical single black woman in the house. I was born in Chicago, but I moved to South Africa when I was 3 years old. And that's where I learned my first language was in South Africa. Stayed there with family. And when I was about 7 years old, or 8 years old, 7 or 8 years old, we moved to Texas. And we stayed out there, and we were in Houston, Texas
Nice.
for a few years. And then, yeah, all of a sudden, my mom was doing very well. Everything was going great. And then, she lost her job. And that's kind of where things just started getting really tough for us as a family. She lost her job. I'm not sure exactly what happened.
Because it's just the two of you, right?
It was just the two of us.
Yeah.
It's always been the two of us.
Wow.
South Africa, we had our whole family there. And, she's in chemistry and she got her master's in chemistry. So she's very
Right. That's what you were saying. Your mom's like a professor or no, scientist?
Yeah. She's worked with she's like scientist. She's worked with neurologists before.
Wow.
She just is just specific field in science that she works in.
Yeah.
It's neurology. Very smart, very driven, very educated. So coming to America was her opportunity. Like she actually came here to America when I was back in South Africa.
Yeah.
She went before and tried to get her footing, get her degree and all that stuff.
Wow.
So yeah, we moved out to Houston. Then she lost her job, so we moved to back to Chicago.
I see.
And that was a rude awakening. Just think about, imagine like you're living in a suburb, and then all of a sudden
you're in
the middle city of Chicago, and you're living in a studio apartment with 4 other people. And
shit.
before that, you were in a townhome,
right,
with 2 people.
Wow.
In a suburb of Houston.
Damn.
With you and your mom, and you have a bike, you have a patio.
Culture shock.
Huge culture shock. I didn't know how to really take it. Got introduced to some really strange behaviors. A lot of people, just crazy kids, like
drugs, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, like you name it, like gangbang was huge. Drugs, like kids being very sexually active at a young age.
Yeah.
It was just all those things that I was never exposed to.
Yeah.
They were like 10 years older than me, but they were the same age as me.
Yeah.
As far as like, they're talking about
porn. Yeah.
Talking about porn, all this stuff, like girls and guns, and it was a huge culture shock. So my mother saw that, and she did not want me to be a product of my environment.
Sure.
So she moved me out to Iowa to stay with the family. So this family.
How old are you?
I was in 6th grade.
Okay, damn.
Or fifth, yeah, 6th grade.
Yeah,
6th grade.
it's like 10, 11.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So all this happened when I was 10, and a lot had happened. Honestly, yo.
She got you right around the time where you could have got someone pregnant.
Yeah,
kids. Yeah, it's nasty to think about.
That's what I'm saying. Like these kids, though, they grow up so fast.
Yeah.
And it's just the environment that they're in. Like their parents don't care.
Yeah.
They're out late drinking on the patio. The kids are swearing. The parents are swearing. It's just a huge mess.
Yeah.
And that's where we moved to, yo. And it was in the hood, in the south side of Chicago. The worst of the worst city, I was there in the inner city, in a studio.
In the 90s or the early 2000s.
Yeah, in the early 2000s. You know what I'm saying? So my mother was like, I can't have you living here. This is a tough situation, tough environment. She knew that. I'll never get over that. Was the first time I saw a roach in my cereal, yo. I was
not the roach.
Irate. I was like, no wonder this tasted so bad. I knew something was wrong in my cereal, yo.
Okay.
Now I have
PTSD.
I know.
I'm like, I didn't know it was a cereal. Damn.
Yo, if you like, I'm not trying to get anyone PTSD, but I'm just telling you, that's kind of environment that just gives you a quick glimpse
Yeah.
of like
On top of the single mom, on top of the she's working all the time, on top of then you have like this whole new culture and like
whole new
people coming at you
culture.
every direction. Yeah.
I don't know
Scary.
them. Like they're hanging outside in the porch. I'm naive because my mother never told me. Like she had to literally sit me down. It's like you are in the ghetto.
Mm.
These guys are gangbanging. You see all these killings that's going on. This is it. Like she like my mother was very honest.
Yeah. I mean you have to be honest
She
if you're
had
gonna be surviving.
you,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? So she told me that. So I grew up very quickly as a kid, and that's the moment where I gotta figure something out. I gotta
Yeah.
help my mom out. So that's where I really started to form these things of helping people
Yeah.
because I saw my mom and then my auntie, she was a single mother too. And, I saw this thing, the gate was cracked or something like that. I guess like her husband had pushed her and into the gate and then like dented the gate or something like that. My mother told me this.
Oh
I'm like,
shit.
yo, this is a crazy environment, yo. Like
Yeah.
I'm living in like a crazy war zone. So
Mm.
like that's why she had me move to Iowa.
Yeah.
Had me move to Iowa. I was there for half of a semester.
Hmm.
Um,
Without her.
without her.
Right. You were like with a family friend or something like that, right?
So like yeah, so the story on that was in 1968. That's when my mom was born. But when she was in high school, she moved from South Africa and lived in Iowa.
Right.
And for her senior year of high school, she went to
Mm.
school in a different country in Iowa.
That's
And
crazy.
there was a foreign exchange student, the au pairs, that kind of thing. That's
Yeah.
what my mom did. So
Wow.
she did that, and we built a very strong relationship with that family
Yeah.
that they stayed with. They're called the Mays.
The
Great
the
family, the
maze? The
Mays.
maze.
Yeah, the
Gotcha.
great family. I mean, they literally like helped us.
That's yeah.
Like
That's a good friend.
like family, like huge. Like I don't even know what could be done to repay them. You know what I'm
Sure.
saying?
Yeah.
Like so they took
Saved your life.
they
Kind
honestly
of.
saved, like, they definitely changed the trajectory of my life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like and I respect my mom, it was tough, yo. But she said I just need to get some things together.
Mm.
I can't have us living here because we were living with my auntie.
Mm.
And she's like, I can't have you living here. Like it's kind of crazy. So yeah, I get it. I had to mature up, you know what I mean?
Wow.
So I
That's kind of
moved.
scary. 10 years old, moving across the
Yeah.
country.
Yeah, yo.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I moved from Chicago to Iowa.
Mm-hmm.
It was a train ride. It wasn't too crazy.
Sure. Sure.
But again, still 10 years old.
That's scary. I was scared to fly a plane at 19. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I know. And that's the thing too. Like I flew so long. Like I had to grow up really fast as a kid,
yeah.
taking care. So I lived in Iowa for a while.
Mhm.
That was a huge culture shock because there's no black people in this town.
I can
It is
imagine.
all like there's 2,000 people. It's a small town.
Oh,
There's like 2,000 people there.
how many white girlfriends did you have before you graduated?
We'll talk about that later.
I'm like, listen, you gotta get it where you fit it. You know what I'm saying?
That was never a problem. But no, like it was
That's funny.
crazy culture shock though,
Yeah.
But I did that thing for a semester. It was okay. It was cool. It was a different speed for
Mhm.
me, but man, I miss my mother like crazy. I
Sure.
was a big mama's boy. The one song that got me through it was "Dear Mama" by Tupac. I
Oh,
was playing that was our song,
yeah.
and me and my mom were this close, yo,
Had to be.
really, really close.
Yeah.
That was a start of our relationship deteriorating. That move
Mm.
right there, because I'm 10 years old.
Mhm.
I'm living with a whole new family. They're a family, but they're not.
Yeah.
It's
You're abandoned.
I feel I don't even I don't even know if I even thought that back then. I don't even,
Sure.
but I'm sure now that's probably what happened.
Sure.
That's probably what was going on.
Yeah.
But man, I was like, yo, like we talk all the time, and I just felt like I didn't belong. That's why I
Mm.
started to feel this I don't belong kind of belief.
Yeah.
Because my mom is there, but I'm not living with her. This family wants to take me in, but they're not really my family. I
Yeah.
just felt like no one really wanted to take me in. Like no one actually loved
Yeah.
me
Mm.
for me. And
Oh,
that's just how I
that's
felt.
tough. Yeah.
And that situation caused that. So, the semester's over. We moved back to Chicago. I moved back to
Right.
Chicago. And then my mom has a new place, she's got a new
Nice.
spot.
Yeah.
And I'm there 7th and 8th grade,
Okay.
and I'm going to Catholic school.
Okay. She was like,
Um,
"Y'all coming back if I can."
go to a
A
good
nicer
school,
school, yeah.
because like CPS, Chicago Public School, bad.
Yeah.
Like so bad that to go through the school, that's like walking through the airport. You have those security monitors to make sure people aren't carrying weapons in the school.
Oh my
So that was
God.
like my neighborhood high
Damn.
school.
Yeah.
It's like that. It's
Yeah.
it's a completely like it's just not funded. No one really cares.
Yeah.
Like it's just, and there's hundreds of them all across the
Mm.
city. And it's free,
Okay.
right? But the only way to get a good education is if you pay
Yeah, private
to go
school.
to private school, magnet school, charter
Yeah.
school that's in the city, or you take entrance exams to like some of the
Mm.
top free public schools in the country. Like you
Oh.
can't, and not everyone can get in there. It's just
Mm.
in Chicago, but like it's called Whitney Young. That's where my sister goes to school.
Okay.
But it's like a prestigious public school. It's free, but you
Mm.
have to like do stuff in middle school and take tests, and like there's a
Be
whole
special.
waiting, like it's like going to Harvard.
Oh
Like
wow.
you have to, there's
For
a
free
whole
education
for
is
free
crazy.
education.
Yeah.
So that just gives you like a little insight into how difficult it was, because my mother, she was educated. Her whole family, my grandma, she was my grandpa was a teacher, and my grandma was a nurse. So
Oh, dope.
my mom
Educated.
grew
Yeah.
up with education. My grandpa preached education to us.
Yeah.
So that's why she wanted me to get a good education. Unfortunately, when eighth grade hit, I used to vacuum the schools to use that money to get it off my tuition.
Oh
Like
wow.
it would be like, hey, if you clean the schools, like a janitorial service, pretty much. Clean the
Fascinating.
schools after class, and
Yeah.
it's like $1,000 off your tuition.
I mean, it's kind of
So
sick, but you're also in junior high.
yeah, I mean,
It's
yeah,
interesting.
yeah,
Yeah.
and yeah, and then like this creeped into like high school. This is when I started doing this, was in high school.
I see.
So like seventh, eighth grade, ninth grade, I
Okay.
was there in Chicago, and like, yeah, the whole vacuum thing, that was in high school. But I learned that I got a call one day, called the order principal's office, and they're like, "Hey, your mom hasn't been paying tuition. You gotta go home." So
Oh
I
no.
had to go home,
Oh my
and
God.
I wasn't allowed to go back to school until my mom paid tuition. So
Well, that'll put a crack in the foundation.
yeah, so I was like,
But
okay,
also your poor mom. Damn.
yeah, yo, like it was tough, yo. But I ended up
Yeah.
finding out later that my family from Iowa was actually paying for that tuition the whole time, yo. And I had no
Wow.
idea this was happening.
Wow.
So my mom's like, "Hey, look, I can't afford to take you to the school." Um,
Did they
like,
just stop paying, I guess?
yeah, they just
They ran out.
it
Yeah.
it was $10,000 a year
Oof.
to go to the
That's
school.
not
So I'm
chump
sure
change.
there were no,
Yeah.
it's expensive
Yeah.
to get a good education in
Damn.
Chicago if you're not going to a public school.
Yeah.
So she's like, "Hey, I can't afford this."
Yeah.
So when in sixth grade, when I was told to go to Chicago, she made that decision.
Yeah.
She was like, "I want you to make the decision. Do you want to go back to Iowa, or do you want to stay here in Chicago with us and just go
Wow.
to a public school?" So
So
she
yeah, oh
told me
my
that,
gosh, yeah.
in ninth grade, and we were at the time, it was, I remember like it was yesterday. We were sleeping on air mattresses at the time.
Yeah.
We never had any real furniture in the house. We would just sleep on air mattresses, and I had to sleep with my mother.
Yeah.
As embarrassing as that was, but I was in ninth grade,
Gotta
and
do what you gotta do.
you know what I'm saying. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, it was a tough situation. I was a big mama's boy, like I
Yeah.
told you. I love my mother, and I wanted to stay with her. But I made the decision I felt was best to go back to Iowa.
Yeah.
So I knew that that's what she wanted me to do, in theory, I thought.
Mm.
So yeah, and then that's when our relationship, we started to fall apart. Um, so like I moved back to Iowa, 10th grade, 11th grade, 12th grade,
Like literal disconnection.
completely gone. She only visited like once, a couple times.
Oh wow.
I felt very much so abandoned because she only
Mm.
visited a few times.
Mm.
And I was going through high school. I excelled at sports like track. I was running at state championships,
I bet you
running
were
track.
fast.
You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
I was really good. I
Yeah.
broke 4 or 5 school records for track and
Damn.
field. I was, you know what I'm saying? I was doing my thing, but
Yeah.
I was maturing. I was being a man, you know what I'm saying?
You're figuring out women.
Yeah, yeah, the girls, you know what I'm saying? The girls,
Yeah.
and you
And you're
know,
a track star.
yeah,
You're a star.
you know what I'm saying? Like it's,
You and the alter ego, I'm sure
yeah,
we're running amok.
the alter ego hadn't been formed yet.
Oh, okay. But that's it was like the seed was
it
being
was the seeds
planted.
were being planted.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely use like girls to,
Sure. Self-soothe.
self-soothe, but I also that's when I started choosing girls that were also hurt or felt abandoned.
Mm,
So like that's all my relationships were. There was, I mean, I didn't even have a relationship in high school. I
yeah.
never dated anyone. I think I dated for someone about a week.
Sure.
It wasn't even, I don't know if you even want to call that a date. Dating. You
That
know
was
what I'm
a
saying?
date.
That was
Yeah.
a date,
Yeah.
not dating. But and then I went to college in Iowa.
Oh yeah,
So
you
I
just
was
moved
there
that.
for 4 years
Damn.
and
So that's a long time. You're just gone
gone.
from
I'm
your
not
only
even
family.
my only family,
Yeah.
yo. And the crazy thing about it though is that I didn't feel at home, right? Whether it was with the family in Iowa, because they were all white, and it just felt weird because I was the only black guy, and we always got stared like, "Hey, this guy clearly is not fitting." So like I kept on throwing. I kept on,
Everyone's othering you because you look,
you know what I
you
mean?
are different.
So
It's
like I
like,
just felt like I'm out of place
yeah,
wherever I go. I
yeah,
can't be with my mom because she can't afford to take care of me.
yeah.
This family's cool, but I feel out of place. I'm the only black guy. I really
Mm,
like did not feel like I belonged. I
mm.
started forming that belief.
Oh.
And I was very people pleasing because I wanted to feel
To belong.
loved and
Yeah.
belong. So and then like I would try to change myself to belong and
You're like, I
change.
don't know if you guys know this, but I'm
Yeah, like,
black.
this is, like, tough, and, like,
Yeah.
they of course, they had very different views.
Sure,
Like,
sure.
politically, it was really
Oh,
weird.
I don't even want.
I don't wanna go there,
No.
but you can only imagine. Iowa
Yeah.
versus Chicago.
The only brown stuff they like are potatoes.
Yes, and steak, and
Oh, I guess
hamburgers.
that is brown. Yeah, technically.
Yes.
When it's cooked.
When it's cooked, right?
Yeah.
But, like, and then, like, it's been this is where it's been, and long story short, too, I know
Yeah.
I've been kinda going on a tangent with
That's so
this,
good.
but I was a people pleaser,
Yeah.
right? And all through college, people please. And then, I graduated college, went to California, and was trying to figure out who I am,
Yeah.
and never went back to family. I never went
Mm,
back and visited home. I
yeah.
felt like I literally did not belong. I
You just
never
decided like it's me and me, and I'll
It's
figure
me
it
and
out.
me, and I'll
Yeah.
figure it out. That's what
Yeah.
I thought. I thought that I had to build something for my mother so I could help them. Like I always envisioned like being the godfather of the family and
Mm,
providing for everyone. And because no one is doing that in my family right now. Like I feel like I'm the only
yeah.
person that's really progressive like that and ambitious and doing things and
My ex carries
putting
that
myself
burden. The
up there,
Yeah.
and I'm a first generation for my family.
Yeah.
So I feel like this all comes on me and
Mm,
it's good pressure, but it can be very, it can be it can be very heavy to bear
sure.
that burden.
Yeah.
Um, One thing that I also want to say, like, that's like my phase right there, but
Yeah.
it's created problems for me too because I never go back to Iowa or even see that family
Mm,
as often. And we recently had a situation that happened
mhm.
where, like, all through my childhood, they'd always make fun of me, right? Like, they would
Mm.
always, like,
I
pick
can
on me.
only imagine.
It
Yeah.
was not fun, but
Yeah.
I would, I wouldn't defend myself. So they
Mm,
would just constantly make fun of me and give me a hard time, like, every
mhm.
single time they got.
And you would be like, "Ha ha ha
Yeah,
ha."
I laugh it off and,
Yeah.
"Dude, okay, I get it," like, in my head, but not saying anything.
Yeah.
So over the years, I just got used to doing that until one Christmas, I was like,
This is the family. This is
this is
like
the
the
family
family.
in
Yeah.
Iowa, and like, yo, like, I really don't like it when you guys constantly, like, you guys are acting like I hadn't seen him in like 5 years,
Mm,
and I was like, yo, I really don't like it. And I had, like you, I
mhm.
texted her
Yeah.
instead of telling because I knew that if I texted
It
her,
wouldn't be
it would
received.
not be received. And I don't know what would transpire, but I know
Mhm.
it would not be good
Yeah.
because they're not used to me speaking up for myself
Mm,
like
mhm.
this. And so I texted her, and I was like, I was leaving on my way back to Texas, and I texted her, and boy, it did not go the way I wanted it.
Yep.
And the response was like, well, you were about what you're saying in your music, and then you come back and talk to me about what's hypocritical or not, and all this stuff, and
Oh.
it was just like a jab, jab, jab
Mhm.
on me and my
Mhm.
attack on what's the content of my music,
Instead of taking ownership of like a thing that they've done.
I was literally just saying, hey, I just need respect. That's it. And that's so like this whole abandonment thing, I think, is what's going on. And I just feel like even family, but I feel like I'm getting farther ahead with my mother.
Yeah. So that's kind of like the background. Like, what's changed since then, and like what is it like now?
Yeah, like now with my mom, it's like we're definitely making headway because like there's just some things that she would say to me, kind of like the way that you express how there's certain things that your dad would say to you. My mother would do the same thing where she would get mad at me for doing something that she expects me to do without telling me that she wants me to do that thing.
That's similar. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm like, so it was like she like with the rental car, for instance, like I didn't clean it right away. And like, yo, I don't really get rental cars like that.
Sure.
So I was not thinking like, yo, you gotta clean a rental car right away. You gotta do this.
It's petty stuff.
Yeah. She's like, well, now I gotta go clean a rental car. Like I gotta make dinner and like I'm like, yo, like you didn't even ask me. Like if you would have asked me, I would have, and I didn't know that was such a big deal for her because.
But notice how she doesn't communicate what she needs.
Yeah, she doesn't.
And then you don't communicate your needs.
No.
And then nobody's happy.
No one's happy. Yeah. So we've learned, we've had this altercation, and I've called her out like, hey, look, I really don't appreciate it when you belittle me like that. She uses the guilt card a lot. Yeah. She'll make me feel guilty, like make me like I'm the single mother here. Like the least you can do as a man around here is go and clean the car.
Not the you're not a man card.
Yo, she
sucks.
She pulled that, yo, and like
that sucks.
I pride myself in being a man. You know what I'm saying? Like that's one thing. And then as soon as she like said that, I'm like, yo, hold up. You know, like
now you're just trying to hurt my feelings.
Yeah, yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like make me feel guilty, like I'm not a man, or like, you know, like doing things like and all this stuff. Like it was never communicated to me.
Yeah.
And like, yo, it's just like a bunch of miscommunication, yo. And this is not to say that, you know what I'm saying, like, I don't want to help my mom out.
Sure,
I do. Yeah. It's just that it just needs to be communicated. So now we have an understanding that, yo, like, we have to talk to each other. And we're definitely, and I've told her this before. And sometimes, like, the way that she deals with problems is she just starts drinking. And I'm like, yo, like,
so you felt abandoned before you ever left.
Like, what you mean?
Has your mom always done that?
Like, I remember one time in Chicago, she was in a bathroom in a tub. You know what I'm saying? And I love my mom. You know what I'm saying?
Listen,
but
this is all love.
It's all love at the end of the day.
Because we love you, we're allowed to critique.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Saying?
There's no hatred here.
Like, you know, I had too many drinks in the tub, and like that's the first time I actually saw her intoxicated.
Yeah,
and I cried, yo. I cried.
It's scary.
You know? I was like. I was crying. My auntie. I think I was crying because she didn't want to talk to me. I was like, "Hey, mom, are you okay? What's going on?" She's like, get out, get out, get out." It's not, you know, she just not want to. And I'm like, "Dang, did I do something?" Like, but she was actually going through something that she wasn't telling me. She was going. She's been through a lot.
Which all of our parents have had hard life. Like my dad had a hard fucking life, bro. Your mom had a hard. Your mom took herself from her home place across the world to get an education.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? She was on her own. Like you were on your own. Facts. She was on her own. Hers was her choice. That's the difference.
Yeah.
But like, it's like, like that's the thing that's like where I go back to like, you've never done this shit before.
Yeah.
But at the same time, not good parenting.
Yeah.
You can't, just because you're having a hard time, you can't abandon your child.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
And also in drinking yourself, to, you know, whatever she was, you're abandoning yourself because you're having a hard time.
Yeah.
You know? So
it's so tough.
It's hard.
My mother, she doesn't know what she's doing either. You want to give them benefit of the doubt. And honestly, she regrets that decision of sending me to Iowa. She regrets it.
I was gonna say, what's been like the what does she regret? Really?
It kills her.
I'm sure it was hard.
It was hard, but she understands the damage in our relationship.
Yeah.
Like how I started getting resentment for her.
She didn't anticipate any of that.
She didn't. No.
Survival mode. Again.
She just thought that I'm gonna send him there and he's gonna come back. Like that's it.
Yeah.
But
You're in like prime developmental age.
Yeah,
too.
I know, yo. That's when I'm becoming a man, yo. Like
Yeah.
I'm in high school. I'm running track.
Which is when you need a father the most.
Exactly, and that's
Yeah.
the thing.
And you didn't have either.
That's yo.
Damn.
Yo, that's exactly what it is, yo. Like no one
Yeah.
taught me how to be a man. I
Mm-mm.
had to teach myself
Or to be a
things.
person.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
yeah. And like, you know what I mean? Like I always felt different in middle school too, because I just felt like the guys had a different understanding of
Mm.
how to move.
I always had
You know what I
I
mean?
always had the perspective of everybody else has the answers. It's like a
Mhm.
I'm dumb complex, right? It's like
Yeah.
everybody knows something I don't know,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
I kind of resonate with
Yeah,
that.
I kind of felt like that too. Like
Yeah.
there's like something like guys should be doing and not doing because they all acted the same. I was the I was the different kid in middle school.
Well, and also the
Yeah.
only men you're surrounded by are white boomers.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
kill me.
yeah, especially in middle school too. I mean,
Yeah.
it was in both too. Like, yeah, middle school in Iowa, yes, no
Yeah.
one looked like me.
Yeah. But then in
But
Chicago,
it was
also not great.
no, not great, but it was wild because I just came back from South Africa,
Yeah.
so I was darker. They knew that. They knew I looked
Mm.
different. So
Even in Chicago.
even in
Yeah.
Chicago,
They're like, oh, you look foreign.
yes, yo, and they would make fun of you because you're just a little darker skinned.
Yeah. But you know what? That probably saved you from getting into a gang.
Yeah, hey,
You know
I'm
what?
cool with
That's
that, yo.
blessed.
I'm cool with that,
Blessed.
yo.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
it's just like
But no, yeah.
that really tripped me out though. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
How your own people they'll cause like and it just shows me that they're not secure. They don't love themselves. Like
Mm-mm.
why would you just because you're a little lighter skinned, but you're
Mhm.
still black, so you
Mhm.
think that makes you a better person and more like
Which is that is the worst wound of colonization
yeah,
is the
yeah.
fucking colorism of
Yeah.
it all. But
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
And it happens in all
yeah,
communities.
it
So
does.
it's my realization. So like again, made me feel like I don't belong. My
Mm,
own people won't even accept me.
yeah,
Everyone is
core
why
abandonment.
like I'm like learning I'm not enough of people in all areas,
Mm.
yo.
You know what's interesting about
So
that not enough
just
wound is like
crazy.
I know I said I don't want to talk about men and women, but it'd be like that sometimes. But almost like the core wound I find amongst men is the not enough wound, and the core wound I find around women is the too much wound. And so when those two
Interesting.
always get together, my ex had a not enough wound, and I have a too
Mhm.
much wound. So
Wow.
anytime I felt his energy shift when I was talking a lot, it would like reminded me of like when I was a kid and my dad would tell me to like just to like stop. You know what I mean? Like I'm just being irritating because I have a big ass personality.
Yeah.
I love to talk. I'm so
Mhm.
curious. I'm always asking questions.
Yeah.
And with my ex, I wanted to know everything about him. I'm like, if you're the object of my desire, I want to know every single detail about you.
Mhm.
And then but then to him, he like has trust issues and he's like, I don't why do you want to know all this stuff about me? Like also
Yeah.
it takes time to get to know somebody, which
Yeah.
he's not wrong.
Yeah.
But like it's annoying to me that you don't automatically trust me because I'm a trustworthy person, but like he doesn't. You know what I
Exactly.
mean?
No, yeah, I had the same
Yes.
situation in my past relationship
Yes.
where I was like the talker. I was like,
Yes.
"Oh my God, tell me about this. This
Yeah.
you want to know about me? This is what happened to
And
me."
you just offer it.
Just
And I would just offer it.
I would just give it,
Yeah.
and accepting the reciprocation. But
Yes.
half the time it would be like, "Oh, that's cool." And then
So
like I'm
anyway,
like, "Yo, like is that really how you have a
yeah.
conversation with
And
somebody?"
then I feel like you don't want to get to know me and then I'm too much. And the opposite of that is he had a not enough wound. So because I was getting more confident in being more because as a people pleaser, you avoid confrontation at all
Mhm.
costs.
Yeah.
And him and I both did that.
Yep.
But as I was getting to know myself, I was like, okay, well, that's not working. So I need to be courageous and bring things up
Yeah.
when things aren't working.
Yeah.
So like I started bringing things up. And then but because he has a not enough wound, anytime I brought something up, it's automatic. Oh, so I'm just the worst and I'm not enough and I'm never going to
The
be enough
victim
for you.
part.
It's a victim card. And it's also, even though I'm not coming at you saying that you're doing anything wrong, I'm just saying we could be doing this better.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to nag you or to tell you
Mm.
you're doing like you're the worst at
Like
this.
you're not enough.
I'm just saying
Yeah.
there's room for improvement on all sides.
Mhm.
But because you don't have the self-confidence and the self-love,
Mhm.
you're trying to self-preserve, you're trying to defend, you're trying to protect, and then, the not enough wound turns into, well, you're trying to change me, and then and I'm like, "No, I'm trying to reflect back to you the version of the person you want to be. I'm trying to bring out in you all the qualities of the man that you're trying to be.
Mm-hmm.
And you're resisting it because it feels scary because you think I'm telling you that you're wrong, that you're stupid, that you're not enough. But what I'm saying is like, no, like I have a growth mindset and that if something isn't working, I want to fix it. Yeah. Period. And I expect you to do the same for me. Yeah. Call me out. Yeah. I am secure enough in myself to be called out. Like, please, it's called humility and we all need it. Like, if I'm wrong, I want you are doing wrong by not calling me out. I said I'm doing the loving thing. Mm-hmm. The loving thing is calling you out and inviting you to the table. Absolutely. Not just calling you out and being ugly, nasty and saying you're never going to be good at this. Yeah. That would be you're not enough. No, it's not helpful. And my core value is to be a helpful person. Yeah. To be helpful and loving. Yeah. And that's where the values conversation comes into play. But like it just a lot of times when he would get defensive, like, well, that's it, and then I'm just not enough. And in our last conversation we had, he was like, I'm not going to be enough for you. I said, maybe you're not. Mm-hmm. And what if that's just true? What if I am too much for you? I said, well, I'm too much for you. Yeah. And what if that's just true? I accept that. Yeah. I said, because what's funny is that I'm always going to want more from you forever. Yeah. If we ever get back together, if we stay together, if we whatever, I am a creator at heart. I am a creative. I'm always going to want to create. I'm going to want to co-create. And what does that look like? It looks like more. Nothing is ever going to be enough in those terms. But it has nothing to do with the fact that like I can be totally comfortable with where I'm at and still work towards more because I'm always going to want to be better. I'm going to want to create. Yes. That's what abundance is. Your wound says abundance is unattainable. Yeah. Because scarcity is what's true. Yeah. My vision is abundance is what's true. Mm-hmm. And so my well overfloweth. Yeah. There is no finite resource. This is an infinite resource because I'm tapped in. Yes. You are not tapped in. That's why yours feels so scary. That you're going to give, and then you're going to run out. Yeah. No,
it's so true. Like we were talking about scarcity and abundance. Mm-hmm. Like really going from that mindset to an abundance mindset is one being aware that you may be living in this limiting belief, but also just understanding the possibilities of living in self-worth and self-abundance. Like
there's no limit.
There's no limit at all. Mm-hmm. This is going to spill into your relationships are going to be abundant and extraordinary. Your finances, like everything you touch, your work, like your conversations, everything you touch is going to be full of abundance and self-worth and self-acceptance and self-love. Yeah. Because that's the energy that you're creating. It's within. Yeah. So understanding that is so important and so imperative. Yeah. So I appreciate you for saying that.
Sure. Yeah. Well, and I used to apologize for it. And I think the difference between, because we had a conversation following our last breakup, and the difference, what happened in those 3 months and then our last conversation was I was like, no, I'm going to own this shit. I'm not going to apologize for being an abundant, happy, loving person. Yeah. Because that is everyone's goal. Yeah. And here I am. Like, I worked so fucking hard to get here. And now you want me to apologize for it or to downplay it or to act like I don't have the good news? Like, no. Yeah. And a conversation that we would get into is like, what's funny is like my courage when viewed through the lens of scarcity looks like risk. It looks like irresponsibility. It looks like toxic positivity. But my courage through the lens of someone who's abundant, it looks like courage. Yeah. It looks like abundance. It looks like, oh, like she has so much to give and look at her doing it. And what's funny is that when I look at him through the lens of scarcity, which, I was guilty of, like, I'm going to own that, in our relationship. When I look at him through the lens of scarcity, his number one quality was patience, right? But through the lens of scarcity, it's cowardice. Isn't that funny? Yeah. It's you never make a move. It's non-committal. It's this, it's that, which all those could be true. But our greatest skills that we're supposed to give to each other, if we're looking at it through a positive lens, through an abundant lens, courage, patience. And I could use some more patience. Yeah. But through the opposite, when we're in our shadow and we're in our like negative parts of our personality, it's cowardice. And there's a better word than risk, but you know what I mean? It's like, what's the word? It's like flippant, risky, irresponsible. Like
Yeah.
you move too fast, you don't
Yeah.
think enough,
You
right?
don't calculate your moves. You just
Yes.
kind of are spur of the
Yeah.
moment.
You aren't a realist. You don't know how the world works. You're too happy. You're not having a fear.
Mm.
You don't you're not logical enough or practical enough. You just think you can do whatever you want and you have no fear and it's just all rainbows and butterflies. Which I'm like, I don't know if you know this, but yeah, I've been alive for 30 years. I know how the world works. Like,
Right.
and when you say that you don't see me in my practical side, practicality is a massive part of my personality. Like that makes me feel misunderstood and like you don't see me,
Yeah.
you know?
And
So then
that's one
it's
of your wounds, is
yeah.
feeling misunderstood, and
Which
that triggers you. And
yes. And with him, when I see him, when I view him as cowardice instead of patient, it's like I'm totally disregarding all the shit he did, all the courageous shit he did to get to where he is.
yeah.
He was in the military. He basically raised like he had a single mom who was working all the time. He had siblings. You know, he survived a bunch of different, situations that worked really tough
Mhm.
and first generation, And a coward doesn't make it through that. You know what I mean? A
Yeah.
coward kills himself.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's just not fair. Like when you look through things, what I'm I guess the point I'm trying to make is like when you have this lens of scarcity, it's not an accurate picture.
Mhm.
It's not accurate. It is all negative. But the difference between abundance and scarcity is that it's not a one-to-one. It's
Mhm.
not proportional.
Mhm.
Abundance is limitless.
Mhm.
Scarcity is finite.
Mhm.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
So it's like you can't even really compare the two because when abundance, you can have practicality. There's room for practicality. There's room for um for risk. There's room for all the different things, right? But like there's not room for all that in scarcity. Scarcity is rooted in fear.
Right.
Whereas love, there's no limits. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying?
No, absolutely. That
Anyway.
energy that you bring in, it says and does a lot
Yeah.
in a relationship. So yeah, having someone that's abundant and someone that's scarce, it's, I mean, I had the same
It
situation,
sucks.
it's like you're like treading against water,
Yeah.
you're running against the
You're
wind.
running on a treadmill.
You're running on a treadmill and you're in the same place.
Yeah.
It's how it feels sometimes. So finding a partner that's going the same way from you guys will get to that abundant place faster.
Yeah. Well, with that, we've been talking for a long time, but
Yeah.
I want to kind of wrap it up with the question of like,
Yeah.
what are you looking forward to in relationship moving forward,
Yeah.
like in your next adventure, and what are the things like you're like most excited about?
Yeah.
And with all this newfound knowledge you have of yourself and like the tools that you think are going to help you and maybe help somebody else who's in the same position.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I am really excited about my next relationship, is the honesty and
Mm.
the vulnerability and just being happy with someone
Mm.
and them being happy with me and being okay with myself in a
Mm.
relationship and them being okay with themselves,
Yeah.
like showing that vulnerable side, like, hey, yo, this is what this is. Yeah, yeah, you know what I mean? And them showing their vulnerability is like, hey, this is yeah, okay, cool. I'm cool with that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I'm excited for that moment. That moment
Yeah.
where, excuse me, each one comes together
Mm.
and they are full. Like they love themselves.
Mm.
And I'm just really, really excited for that moment. I'm really excited to build further chemistry and have
Yeah.
a fresh laughter and
Mm.
fun in my relationships,
Yeah.
and to have a certain center of gravity that's different from fear and anxiety.
Oh, I like that
One
center of
that is,
gravity.
yeah, one that is focused on love and faith
Mm.
and trust. I'm really, really excited for that.
Yeah.
In my next relationship, that's something I really, really want. And the second question,
Mhm.
on top of that, yeah, all the things I've learned
Mhm.
is to have boundaries and stick to those
Mhm.
boundaries, and not compromise those boundaries, because
Yeah.
those boundaries are there for a reason. They're there for they're there for you.
Yeah.
So putting those down is just, disrespect to yourself.
Yeah.
Having boundaries, and just, you know, some other things that I've learned is to select better.
Sure.
I mean, that's the biggest one,
Yeah.
to have someone that is in alignment,
Mhm.
right? They're available, and that they're attractive.
And they're hot.
They're hot.
Gotta keep it juicy. You know what I'm saying?
You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna be looking at that every day. You know?
Every day.
She look good.
So that's hilarious. But I wanted to say, sorry, did you have something else?
No, I was just gonna, like I have so many things I've learned.
Yeah.
It's not being afraid of conflict, like just like knowing that, hey man, if it doesn't work out, it's okay, and if it does, that's cool too.
Yeah.
But you can't try to manipulate how it's gonna work out.
Yeah.
So just
knowing when it's helpful to, like, when you select better, you know that the fight isn't going to make or break because you are in alignment and the values are the same, and it's somebody you know is willing to work on it with you.
Exactly.
Not just running away because something's hard.
Exactly. Like they're actually committed. In this relationship. Communication. I mean, man, foundation of everything in my relationship. It has to be communication,
Yeah.
Like I gotta be able to tell what I feel without feeling scared of telling it. You know that feeling when you feel like you can't be
your throat chakra gets all stuck.
You like get choked up, voice start creaking a little bit. I want to be able to say that. I feel like I couldn't say that in my past. I couldn't just you know what I mean?
Flow.
Just let it flow. And I felt the same thing from the other side. So like just finding someone that's in the same life stage as me, that's doing the same things that we're both doing, and that we just trust each other, we love each other, and I'm just really excited for those moments to come about.
Exciting.
It's really want that, and the biggest thing is just confidence in ourselves and in the relationship. Extreme communication, joy, spontaneity. I love that.
That's exciting. Well, and I do want to say, I'm like, just kind of circling back to when you're talking about your childhood and stuff. It sounds like it's like, well, I just not that this is what you were looking for or what you asked for, but like you have reparented yourself. Do you know what I mean? Like you've become the mama and the papa to yourself, right? And it's like that, like coming in and out of that, like with clarity, and it's like even though you're still working on your relationship with your mom and it's getting better, it's like it's getting better because you're getting better.
I brought it to her attention. No, thank you for calling that out. It is because like we parent our parents sometimes when we get older, kind of like how you are doing with your dad.
For sure.
Definitely. Hey, Dad, this is how you operate as a human being.
If you want to be loved accordingly, these are the steps you have to take.
This is what you need to do. And my mom can be kind of cool sometimes and just cut people off very quickly, and I'm the opposite. I'm more understanding.
Well, because you were cut off.
Yeah.
So the skill you developed was connection.
Yeah.
You were like, by God, I'm gonna figure out how to fucking make this work.
I'm gonna freaking get connected. Like, that's my biggest need. If I would say my biggest need right now in my life is connection. Yeah. It's connection. It's love and connection. Because you have the physiological needs, like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Like you have the food, you have the shelter. You're able to protect yourself. You have clothes. Love and connection. It's the next step in the ladder for me, and financial security is right there as well. Like I feel like I'm able to actually live life and not worry about paychecks, which is a blessing. But the next thing to feel full is love and connection. So that's what I'm working on, and I'm working on that with my mom right now. And I think that I was gonna comment, like, I've been listening to this podcast or this YouTube channel. It's just about positive thinking and how everything always works out for you. My mom has always thought that the world is against her. Like in her context, she grew up in South Africa with apartheid. Apartheid, and people that aren't familiar with apartheid, and I'm sure you are. You seem like you're definitely well educated.
I could be better, but yeah.
But yeah, it was just like slavery, but in South Africa. It was a civil rights movement, but in South Africa. White people, versus the African people, like they were just not equal. So she grew up in that, and she grew up understanding that, just that dynamic, that culture, not to trust people. You're hated.
Yeah, for no reason.
So like my mother grew up with that kind of like blue chip on her shoulder, like you can't trust nobody. And
it was valid for her.
It was valid, for sure, right? It was understanding. However, like so she was telling me at work, hey, I feel like I'm being overlooked. And I feel like there's people getting promotions and I'm not. I feel like they're holding me back. I feel like I'm not uh skill worthy to do this because for a long time my mother didn't have her visa situation together. For over 10 years she wasn't working.
Yeah.
She had literally had immigration banging on her door. And luckily for me, I had an education. So they saw that she wasn't a criminal here illegally.
Right.
She had a kid. He was very educated. I had just graduated college. And that was what eventually said, okay, she can actually stay here.
Wow.
So I have a lot of compassion for people that are facing the ICE raids right now and families being separated and all that stuff. I've been there before where ICE is literally knocking on our door and luckily we were able to figure something out and she was able to stay and get an actual citizenship here in America even after being illegally for like 10 years and not having any work. So she came into the work field not working for a long time, so she feels insecure a little bit and she's just now getting back to work like 3 years ago.
Wow.
So she has that. So like I understand now that, hey mom, like I know you've experienced this stuff before. It might change you, but it doesn't mean that you have to believe that that's who you are and going to be. You know what I'm saying? It might, you know what I mean? So
I have something about that. I'm looking.
yeah, like I have been listening to this, so like I showed it to her, and she was like, "I can't tell you how important this has been in my life.
Wow.
It's changed the way that I see things. Like she used to always be like, things aren't always gonna work out. Words are very important, right? So she would say all these all
Words
the
are
time.
spells.
Man, we're struggling. Like
And the universe says you are.
you are struggling, and I'm gonna show you that
And
you're
I'll keep
struggling.
making you struggle. That's what you want.
But like this podcast showed her, like even though your senses say that you're here in Texas, but your goal is to be in LA, you're able to think about being in LA and the kind of person that you're going to become and feeling how that feels and actually living in that space where you can actually act and achieve that goal.
And align.
And align with the mind and the way the body works. So now she doesn't feel overlooked because she's not thinking about being overlooked. She's like, you know what?
I'm being diligent in my work.
I'm being diligent in my work. I'm doing my best. I'm working hard. So now she has these different associations with her job. So that, to go back to your point, we parent our parents sometimes.
Yeah.
They don't always know what's best. And sometimes
Isn't that crazy?
It's kind of wild to me. I'm like, you're supposed to be teaching me. Like, what are you doing?
Have you learned nothing?
There's this thing called the internet.
Right.
ChatGPT is
Isn't
great.
That crazy?
So like, I think that just goes to like our curious minds. Like, I mean, we are inquisitive, and I'm always trying to figure out how can I optimize myself? How can I be better? And that bleeds into my family and the people I'm around too. So I'm very happy that I'm learning this too, and I look at it as a positive because everything happens for a reason. I haven't had the best track record with relationships being successful, but I'm learning a lot, especially with my most recent one. It's been the longest one. It's been the one I've learned so much about myself.
It was your initiation, like
into dating and into relationships and the importance of it, and even realizing that my behavior that I actually have with my mother and my girlfriend, I have the same relationship sometimes with other women that I work with, like at the workplace.
Isn't that interesting?
Certain women, not all of them.
Specifically, this one
that reminds me, like, dang, my mom used to do this.
And
to
you're
me.
triggered.
Why is she making me feel guilty or less than? Why is she being so hard on me?
Yeah.
I'm like,
it's pissing me off.
It's pissing me off. And then like you have a rift with this person.
Yeah.
And you're like, it's them. It's not me. It's like, bro, like it's kind of
both.
It's yeah, for sure, right? The person doesn't.
Sometimes people are shitty, and that's
sometimes
okay.
Sometimes people are, they're crappy. Okay. However, like I'll say this one other story, and then there was this one time I was working at this restaurant. Okay, and this customer was so rude to me. Like he treated me like a peasant. Like he would literally sit down, like, I'm like, hey, can I help you with anything, sir? It's like, give me a drink. And then he just like shushed me away. bro, what? Like, I was like, yo, like, why is he treating me like this? And like, I don't know, he would do this every time. And then I had resentment towards that guy. I was like, this guy, oh, here comes this guy again, like.
Was he a regular?
He was a regular.
Oh my God.
And he would just come in and just be just a jerk, like. But I tried this thing where I started praying for him, I started praying for him and like setting good energy.
Wow.
I kid you not. The next time I saw him, he was like, he used to just sit down by himself. You're not supposed to do that.
Okay.
Well, the first time he came up to me, he was like, hey, can you get me seated? Is there any way I can sit? I'm like, this is the same guy? He's like, yeah, you can sit over there, sir. I was like, yeah, thank you. He said, thank you. Like, I've never heard him say thank you. And then he sat down. I politely walked over there. He's like, yes, may I please, like, and then he was with his wife or some partner there, completely different individual.
Yeah.
So I think I say that to say that the kind of how we view people, like this coworker I was working with, how we view people actually says a lot. Like, cause like I was literally thinking like, man, she's probably gonna call me on the meeting and she's gonna make me feel bad and guilty and
almost manifesting
almost literally manifesting it. But once I started seeing her in a better light,
you have to look for the good.
You gotta look for the good. And like that's what I'm saying. Like you think what you become, you feel what you attract, and then like you imagine what you want to create. Yeah. And then you just act on it. So it has this relationship has opened up my mind.
It's rocked your shit.
Rocked my world, It's rocked it in a great way, and it's really my relationship with women. I don't have the same kind of
and yourself
issue with men. Like the homies, I'm like, yo, what's up, bro? I don't have like this like resentment, or this distrust. I definitely have an issue, like definitely for sure, like distrust with like, other homies like that I don't know.
Sure.
But the people that I do know that I'm close with, what I'm saying, we're locked in. That's and it's beautiful. Like keeping a good circle around you and all that stuff. So yeah. I mean, this relationship has helped me in more ways than I can.
That's beautiful. What I was gonna say too, it's like, I mean, in some ways, it's best that you never had a dad because they can't traumatize you if they're not around. You know what I mean? And then you can just deal with like you already had abandonment wounds, so like that's what you would have got from him. So it kind of worked out great.
It worked out just fine.
Either way, you were gonna get the same wound. It's almost like God was like, figure it out anyway.
This is good. You're gonna want to do this way instead.
Yeah. Well, the one thing I was gonna say that I thought about earlier was like when you talk about your mom, was like there's something that I told my dad once when you talk about parenting your parents. I said, Dad, you have all these qualities because at one point in time they protected you. I said, and not only that, but in your job, you were rewarded for these qualities, being aggressive, being assertive, being confrontational. Beautiful. You were rewarded. You were salaried. You were just like these qualities about you, these traumatic coping mechanisms were championed in your working life and in your childhood. I said, there's skills that you have that you needed for a point in time. I said, but what you're running into now is that you don't need them anymore. Yeah. When you're holding on to them with a fist like this. Mm-hmm. And this fist is like punching people in the face. Mm-hmm. And we don't want to get punched. Like, we are not celebrating those behaviors. This does not help in the civilian world. Like, these coping mechanisms are now to your detriment. Yeah. They worked while they worked, and now they don't anymore, and you just haven't adjusted. Yeah. And that's like what your mom, like, her perspective saved her life. Like, you can't trust people. Yeah. If you live in the hood, you can't trust people. Yeah. These people are going to trust your shit. Or, like, if you live in South Africa, like, these people hate your guts for no reason. Like, that was a helpful thought process at one point in time. None of this stuff came from nothing. This protected you at one point in time. Now it's hurting you. Yeah, exactly. Now it's like a cancer.
Yeah. It's time to move forward.
You got to put it down.
Have different beliefs and move forward and let it go.
That's beautiful. What's your mom's name?
Nana.
Nana. That's beautiful. Yes. My mom's name is Sue.
Sue. Hey, Sue.
Hey, Sue. Hey, Nana. I don't know if you watch podcasts, but.
She will listen.
Well, okay. So I think this is pretty good conversation. Yeah. I think let's wrap it up. I want to hear about Nyck. I want to hear about where can people find you on the internet? Yeah. Do you have anything? I know you just came out the single. Talk about that. And then. Yeah.
I mean, you can find me on all Instagram and TikTok and YouTube, Nyck Khayo.
Spell it for the people.
Yes, it's Nyck Khayo. That's Nyck Khayo. No spaces, all lower cases. And yeah, I just released a new song. It's called Memoir. Check it out. It's really dope. I'm releasing new music. Got some videos coming out. So yeah, come and hang with me.
Stream on all platforms. It's Nyck Khayo. This has been such a lovely conversation. Thank you so much. I mean, how many? Damn, were we yapping for 3 hours?
I want to say thank you to you for letting a stranger, hang out with me for a while and do this really, really cool relationship session, which we really wanted to help people, inform them of what we've learned in relationships, and what we're doing to grow and healing and just be better at dealing with relationships in life, all facets of life. So thank you for creating space and making that space for people to learn and educate and create something meaningful in their lives that they can use and that's going to impact them for the rest of their life. So thank you for creating this platform.
That's very, very lovely. And this is the thank you train. We're about to say thanks again. I just want to say thank you for being an example of, I think, we are not perfect humans, but like, it's very refreshing to me to be able to be in conversation, in dialogue with a straight dude. Like, and I don't want to act like you're a unicorn because I know you're not. I know there are people out there like you. I see them on the internet, but like, I'm excited. Like, we're in Dallas. Like, this is where I'm choosing to spend my time. This is where I want to live. Like, I don't want to feel like I have to go somewhere else to be around other people who are trying to self-develop and be around people who are, quote unquote enlightened or whatever. Like, there's nothing special about us in terms of like who we are and the way we think. And I think like with my podcast, like you said, like the goal is to just be an example of what it looks like to be in dialogue and to express and to be authentic. Like, bro, all the things that happened today, like me messing up the audio, my alarm going off, like this is real life. And I think something that I want to say to like the people is like, we met at a club, like randomly in real life. And I feel like we're going to be good friends now. And I'm going to hype your shit up and I'm going to blow up your spot and I'll tell all my friends to go, like I just,
likewise.
I'm like excited because this, and what I'm looking forward to in this season of life, it's not so much relationship, but it is it's not so much romantic relationship, but it is like connection, right? Like I can relate with you on that to the nth degree because I'm in such a, like you said earlier before we started recording, you're in a season of service. And for me, like I feel that so deeply. And maybe it's because I turned 30. Maybe it's because I feel more confident in myself and in my abilities. Like only recently did I get rid of my imposter syndrome, like probably a year ago. And now ever since then, I just feel like, God, there's so much more juice to be squeezed. Like now that I'm confident in my ability, like what the else can I do, Yes. And so I'm like, we're going to do this podcast and it's going to be good. And like, I'm going to have conversations with cool people, not because of what you're doing, but because of who you are, It's like, yeah, like, and the fact that my picker is getting better and better and better, like not even romantically, just in general, like there are all good people around me. And even down to the strangers. So it's like, it's so validating for me to like sit here and be in conversation. Cause like, I'm happy to open my house up to you because there's something about like my intuition was like, that's a good person. You know what I mean?
Thank you.
We did talk for several hours the first time.
Definitely talked for a minute.
Yes. But I also want to give flowers to your mom because Nana did a good job.
Yeah. Shout out Nana.
Shout out Nana. I mean, we give the flowers to the moms out there who tried their best. Like, real, and the dads. Like,
raising the kids not easy, yo.
No.
You know what I'm saying? Shout out to your family too, yo. Like,
hell yeah. My parents are fantastic.
Yeah, you've had a tough upbringing. But you know what I'm saying? You turned out great. Like it's because like some people aren't really aware like that, or like like have these conversations.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So yeah, it's definitely encouraging. I think that I'm happy that I have a friendship like this now with someone I can have these type of conversations with and talk about what I've just be free to talk about my experience and my opinion and to be able to receive that from you as well. So I think it's a blessing. That we can easily and considering how fresh it is for me and also for you as well, and feel like this is healing as well. Just to be able to talk about what is going on in our lives.
Well, and we're going to run it back for a creative episode where we talk about our art.
Oh, yeah.
Hell yeah.
Because you dabble in some art too, right?
A little bit. On dance and stuff like that. Well, and also know there will be collaborate. Next time you come on the pod, there'll be a whole setup, there'll be microphones. I'll have some real lights. It'll be cool. But with that, this has been wonderful.
Cool.
If you guys like this episode, you know what to do. Like, subscribe, share. We'll be clipping it up. This might be a two-parter. Yeah, this might be a two-part. Hopefully my phone did it. Hopefully my phone's recording. But no. It's everything's gonna work out exactly the way it's supposed to. But thank you guys so much for listening to another episode of Perfection Unfolding with my wonderful guest, Nyck Khayo. Again, follow him on on Instagram, Spotify, anywhere you stream music. You said YouTube?
Yeah, YouTube.
On YouTube. He's a model. You said an actor? Are you an actor? Not yet. He's a model. He's an actor. He's going to be famous. Okay. He's a rapper. He's a yapper.
Yeah.
All the above. My new friend. Okay. If you know what to do, if you liked this, tell a friend to tell a friend. Hopefully this healed something in you, having conversation with a man and a woman who just kind of get it. Love you guys. I'll see you next time. Okay. Bye.